Alright, well, we're doing Donald Trump, and I'm Parker Dalton.
I'm Taylor Hart.
I'm Jake McLeod. I'm Eric Seal.
Okay, Donald Trump was born June 14th, 1946 in Queens, New York. He's currently on his third wife. He attended Fordham University. He graduated Wharton School of Finance and with a degree in economics. And in 2015, he decided to run for presidential candidate of the Republican Party. That's a little bit about Donald Trump.
Okay. All right, panelists, it's your turn. Or questions, sorry.
Okay, let's get started. I'm sure you're aware that he wants to bring Christmas back. Any thoughts on his discussion on Starbucks? He owns, I know he runs one in his own hotel.
Well, yeah, he said that, if he became president, then he would bring back the term Merry Christmas, so I guess that's good for him. He does claim himself as a Protestant Presbyterian Christian, so I guess that's good for him, a good Christian to bring back Merry Christmas, the real meaning of Christmas.
Do you think that was worth his time debating at a...
I don't think so.
I mean, I don't think it's a big topic that really matters to talk about Starbucks cups, but
Well, with
it's Trump.
all the problems that we have in our country, having Merry Christmas on a Starbucks cup is a little, I think it's something that we can put aside. Plus, we do practice freedom of religion, and though I'm a Christian, he's a Christian, we have to recognize that not everybody celebrates Christmas.
I agree.
And I think he respects that.
So just a question for any of you. Donald Trump is a well-known businessman. What about his career as a businessman? What accomplishments would make him stand out as a worthy president?
Well, when he took over his father's company, the Elizabeth Trump & Son Company, in 1971. And from then, he just kind of skyrocketed off with business. He signed a partnership with the Hyatt hotels, and he opened up the Trump, his Trump building, and then he's opened up casinos in Atlantic City, and he's kind of he was worth over $2 billion, and I mean, he's brought comebacks. He lost a bunch of his money in I think it was 1990 when real estate went down. He went from worthy of $1.7 billion to $500 million, and then just 4 or 5 years, he came back to be worth over $2 billion. So, I mean, he's a very successful businessman in real estate. He's obviously a good builder. So,
When his dad died, Fred Trump was worth up to $200 million, and he left him an inheritance, and Donald invested it in several business ventures. And it paid off, and he took risks, and that's kind of where he is today.
How would that lead to his president? I mean, that's all well and good. I mean, he took risks. He's lost some money. We've all made mistakes. But this is really a high-stake gamble. I mean, the president of our country, arguably the most powerful country in the world, has some big decisions to make. And I don't, what about his business would lead to, something that comes across his desk in the Oval Office, whether it's regarding ISIS in Syria or abortion at home or, somebody who's going to choose to make a stand on Merry Christmas, which wasn't even on the Starbucks cup to begin.
I think one good thing is balancing the budget. I think that his background with money and financing can really help, his plan for balancing the budget. I mean, it just seems like he knows what he's talking about. He's got the experience. He can do it. It almost seems like.
him being such a high up person in the world today and being so powerful, I mean, he has to deal with a lot of struggles and a lot of very powerful people all around the world, and he has a lot of relationships that probably would be very beneficial to him being our president today. So I think that him just being so powerful and having all those relationships and all the experience that he does have with foreign countries would be very, very beneficial.
So do you feel that Donald Trump is a front runner because of his beliefs, his ideas, or because he's a celebrity?
I think it's more of he's a celebrity. Everyone wants to know his success story and how he got to where he is. And yeah.
I think he just comes across as, he just came across as one of the only Republican candidates to just be brutally honest. He just came across and was just straight up, and I think that's really what set him off from everybody else. He just said it, and he made very, I guess you could say, like broad statements that would just, everybody was just like, wow, did he really just say that? And I mean, he just kind of sets himself apart.
It's like a breath of fresh air to a lot of Americans to see like a bunch of politicians saying the same thing over and over again, and then here comes Donald Trump saying entirely new stuff, speaking his mind. You can tell he's being honest, and a lot of people respect him for that.
Mm-hmm.
I feel it's a little both.
How
Because
so,
he
Jake?
just says whatever he wants.
How is that relevant? Okay, I mean, two questions here, kind of Eric and Jake. He says whatever he wants. Eric, you say, it's a lot of new stuff, okay? I'd like to get into some specifics of something what makes him a breath of fresh air. What are these, there's a little bit of both, some specific of why. What about his policy, his ideas? I mean, he argues that he's a conservative. Is he truly a conservative? What are his viewpoints that set him apart from, say, somebody like a politician such as, Jeb Bush or Marco Rubio?
Well, definitely something that sets him apart is his stance on foreign policy, especially building a wall around Mexico. That's something that like a lot of people wouldn't even dare mention at like any conference. And the fact that he wants Mexico to build up themselves, and he wants to have all immigrants out of America if he becomes president, like not a lot of people would back that up, or like even if they felt that, a lot of like people would tell them that it's not the best idea for them to express that opinion. And he went out and he said that the majority of the immigrants are bringing drugs, they're rapists, and he said, I assume some of them are good people. Very controversial topics that I don't think many politicians would touch on. So I think him doing that is, even though it is controversial, it is different.
Jake?
He just says whatever he wants. The other politicians, they worry about what they have to say because they're worried that if they say something wrong, someone's not going to vote for him. Him, seems like he just doesn't really care. He just says anything.
What do you think makes so many people like him? As you say, he has kind of radical viewpoints. He's honest and he says what he thinks. Why is that causing people to like him and make him a front runner as opposed to turning them away?
I think the way he goes after other candidates, like in the debates, you can see how he's always kind of, bragging about how successful his business is and like why people should vote for him because of his experience in business. And like he's had a lot of like arguments with Jeb Bush and they get into it a lot, and it's just like he adds a humor into his argument, and I think it just gets people to like him better, and the fact that he's a celebrity helps too.
Another thing people like that he's not a politician either.
Can any of you address the differences between him and Mr. Carson or Dr. Carson as far as their specifically like maybe tax, how they think about taxes? Or
Yeah. Well, Dr. Carson, he wanted to do, I think it was the all across the board, the tithing tax, kind of like what the church does. Trump has the 5-part tax plan where it's like if you make up to $30,000, you pay 1%. From $30,000 to $100,000, you pay 5. $100,000 to $1 million, you pay 10, and then $1 million or above, you pay 15%. It's obviously a completely different tax plan than Dr. Carson, because Dr. Carson wants it equal all across the whole board, and Trump wants the rich to pay more and of course the poor to pay less.
Yeah, and Trump's more focused on getting rid of the Affordable Care Act, well, known as Obamacare, and replacing it with a free market plan, basically an economic system which prices are determined and unrestricted competition between privately owned businesses, which separates from Carson's.
How does
Church.
Carson differ there?
His church tax is different. Though, I think they both want to get rid of Obamacare. As far as the way they want to tax each individual person, Trump focuses more on the wealth of each person and their income.
Okay.
That determines the percentage.
So last week there was a lot of controversy on whether or not Donald Trump should have hosted Saturday Night Live. Do you feel that he should have or shouldn't have?
I mean, it kind of just goes back to the topic of, I mean, he is Donald Trump. He is a celebrity. He was on The Apprentice or whatever in 2004 when he was a star. It's kind of his, I mean, that's kind of what people know him for before he was running for president. A lot of people knew him as a celebrity and as a big, successful businessman. So, I mean, it's kind of just his profile. It doesn't really go against his motto or anything.
So you guys are seniors, getting ready to graduate, go to college. You've been involved with education 13-ish years. What is Trump's view on education, and
like
do you agree?
citizenship is not being taught within the school system. The curriculum is making the teachers do less and the students do even less than that. He feels like schools are crime-ridden, that we aren't learning like we need to be. He wants to actually do away with the
Common Core.
Common Core. He's not for Common Core at all. He encourages competition between schools because he feels like if students move to the better school districts in their cities, it's more students are going to obviously go to the better districts, and the competition will be better between schools, and therefore the economy will grow. So.
Yeah, he believes the Common Core, he calls it a disaster, and he thinks it gives like federal government more control over like our education system, and he's all for like states having control rather than the government. And he thinks these like school systems have become too politically correct rather than just focusing on what's the topic.
When you say states, is he still asking for a common core, if you will, in the state, or is he saying teachers
think
and families will?
I think he says it should be more of a state issue rather than federal government.
I think because he's like the federal government has like all the control over Common Core,
Right.
and they're like distributing it everywhere.
Does he mention any teacher led evaluations or assessments? I know Dr. Carson's very high on, he would like families and teachers to kind of set forth those standards because they're the ones in the classroom.
Yeah, I believe he's for that. I just think
And the way the subject matter is being presented, that's where his issue lies with education.
Okay.
He also believes that they should cut back on the Department of Education, way down.
As in the budget for
Yes.
it? Or, okay.
Do you think that's a good idea?
No,
Why not?
I just don't think it should be. They should have a higher budget
Why?
to get more material.
Who's going to pay for it?
Us?
Taxpayers?
Yes.
Is the Department of Education working? You don't know? Okay. Anybody? Parker, Taylor, Eric?
I mean, I would have to disagree with him.
Why?
I mean, obviously the Department of Education is not working, or the students today are testing lower than they ever have before, so I don't see why would we put more money into what is not working than to fix, like, why would we put money into stuff that's not working? Why would we put money into the core? Why would we agree with what we're already doing when obviously what we're doing now is it's a disaster. I mean, it's terrible.
Okay.
So if Trump doesn't agree with Common Core, as you all have said, thinks it should be sort of state, you're all going to be fathers probably one day. What do you want? What would you want?
Coming from LCA, I mean, we have a lot of good teachers. I've never been in a public school, so I don't know what that's like. But I mean, I trust my teachers a lot more than I would trust the national government to pick what I would like to study and what they think's right for me. So I would much rather be against that Common Core.
We're blessed. I mean, we don't have to worry about crime here at LCA and, shootings. And Trump claims that, a lot of the public schools around the country, students aren't graduating, and the graduation rate isn't high simply because, all the crime and the shooting and the weapons and the thugs in the public schools. But I think that has a lot to do with maybe fear in school now. more than ever.
I want to shift gears a little bit off of education and what day is today?
Veterans Day.
Today's Veterans Day. Today's a day where we honor those men and women who have served in our armed forces. And I think it's something that's shameful about our country today with the neglectful attitude that our men and women who have physical wounds and mental and emotional wounds from from battle, who these men and women who put their lives on the line. I want to know, what does Donald Trump feel, or what is his proposal for addressing this, or does he see it as a problem?
He feels that the immigrants in the United States are being taken care of better than the veterans. Like, they aren't getting as much recognition as they should be, and the immigrants are getting better suited, like the illegal immigrants, than the veterans, and he doesn't think that's right. And I mean, he's heavily against illegal immigration, and he believes that we have to do something better for the veterans. That too many of them, I think he said 2 of them an hour commit suicide because, like, stress, post-traumatic stress. And we've got to offer more.
Now, 2 an hour. Did he cite that? I mean, Donald Trump likes to talk, but he doesn't like to really back things up.
I think he addressed that in the debate last night. Now, whether that's true or not, that's just what he said.
Okay, 2 an hour, 2 a day.
2 a day.
2 a week.
Yeah.
Is too much.
Okay.
It's too much. So regardless of the numbers, right or not, what's his plan, Taylor? I mean,
he wants to put more mental health activities that will help the people that, especially veterans that are struggling with post-traumatic stress, and improve those, and especially background checks. There's too many people getting guns that shouldn't be getting guns. We've got to improve the background checks, he believes. Military bases and recruiting centers, he's strong on that. He believes that the military nowadays just is defenseless because of the Obama administration's policies, and he believes that, just overall the veterans aren't getting what they should in this country.
He agreed with Ricky Rubio last night, and the fact that when Ricky Rubio said both Rand Paul called out Rubio for saying that $1 trillion into the military is crazy, and Trump agreed with Rubio in that sense because he believes that if we're the most powerful country in the world, that it'll pay off in the long run, that all the money, because no one will want to mess with the U.S. We already are such a powerful country, but he believes that if we keep adding on to that, that'd be very well. And he even stated it last night that he loves the veterans and that he wants to do anything he can to support them.
Okay. He loves a lot of people. He throws that in a lot.
He does.
Jake, Eric, anything specific about veterans? I'm looking for something to anchor down to say, he wants more mental health facilities. Okay. What about health care for veterans? The Veterans Administration's a disaster. Under this current administration and previous administrations, veterans have been neglected. Jake, Eric, anything that he's going to do to solve that?
Well, he already supports Medicare and Social Security, so I think he'd be definitely willing to provide that for veterans. He believes that they're not, the United States, as regards to military veterans wise, they're not getting as much respect as they have been before. It's decreasing, and I think he said they deserve, for fighting in our country and serving, if anyone deserves extra health benefits, it should be them.
I will say he's a big supporter of universal health care. He wants to repeal Obamacare. He's a huge critic of Obamacare. He wants to make it more affordable for everyone. He believes in bringing down the cost and just making it affordable for most families that can't afford it.
Why does he think Obamacare is a failure?
He believes that there's too many families that can't afford it, that are without health care. And he believes that it's because of Obama's policies that is the reason. And he used the quote, "We must stop Obamacare before it brings down the country." So he's really against it seems like.
Can any of you speak to his thoughts on abortion?
He is heavily against